Prepare yourself to be blown away by the seismic sounds and scrutiny of Aftershocks Podcast with Chris Aiken and Matt Hartnett.
To another episode of Aftershocks, and our special guest today is the bassist and a founding member of one of industrial metal's most successful and best-selling bands of all time, Static-X, and he's here to talk about their new album, Project Regeneration Volume 1, Mr. Tony Campos. Tony, man, thanks for coming on. First off, how are you doing with this whole pandemic? You pulling the hair out of your beard yet and going stir-crazy like the rest of us are?
You know, for me, it hasn't been all that different from daily life at home because I never leave the house anyway. You know, like I go hit a drive-through and, you know, if I have to buy something, I just get it delivered now. So, you know, it's not that different from, you know, my daily life when I'm home from tour. Having said that, I haven't been on tour in, you know, over, you know, like 6 months now. So, yeah, that part really sucks.
Sure. Yeah.
So if I'm tearing my beard out over anything, it's that. I can't go on tour, you know?
Sure, yeah, man. No, for sure. Well, first off, man, congratulations on the new record. Personally, I think it's great. The songs are great. And, you know, there's nothing that I've heard on the record that would make me think that you didn't do justice, you and the band, for not only Wayne, but for the fans as well. And, you know, I'm hearing and reading mostly from the fans and the press. Everything's been pretty much supportive and positive. So I would venture a guess that you're pretty happy right now with how everything's going. Of course, like you just mentioned, except for the fact that you can't talk for the new record. But, you know, you can really tell the majority of the fans, everyone's appreciating what they're doing and what you're doing for the memory of Wayne. And, you know, so, I mean, when the three of you came to the decision to take, you know, the route you're on now with the new record, did the tour last year, the Wisconsin Death Trip anniversary tour, did that really make the decision easier for you guys after seeing the reaction from the fans? Did it give you that, you know, assurance that you may have needed to go, you know what, this is okay, we're doing this, and we've got the support from the fans, and it's all good to go?
Yeah, that was, you know, a big moment for us when, you know, we saw that the fans were, you know, they were open to the idea, and once they actually saw it and heard it, they pretty much all of them got behind us. And, you know, so once that happened, you know, we knew we were on the right track. And previously having had the blessing of Wayne's family, and then to have the fans come out and support, that was, you know, the confirmation moment that, yeah, we're doing the right thing.
Awesome. Yeah, no, great. And I think another reason, you know, why the record is so good is that you've also have your original producer from the 4 records back there, the great Ulrich Wild. And if anyone, I think, knows how to capture that original Static-X sound, it would obviously be him. So tell us a bit about how that felt for you guys working with him again after all these years, and how much of an impact, you know, did he have on the record in terms of just his presence and having a veteran player like that back on the team?
Yeah, having Ulrich was awesome, man. You know, he did our first record, helped us define our sound. So, you know, it kind of had to be Ulrich doing it.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was, and just having him around, and, you know, and working with Kenny Koichi again, you know, it was it really just, you know, lent to the vibe that we were going for, you know, and, you know, bringing back a lot of good memories of, you know, working on that first record together. And, yeah, it just made the vibe a whole lot more concrete.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, Tony, I want to go back, you know, right about the time when Wayne passed away, or right at the time when Wayne passed away. And certainly, you know, that's a huge blow, especially for your band. And I'm curious, at that moment, before you made the decision, if you felt like you were almost kind of boxed in at that point because, Wayne was so tied to the image of Static-X, but yet you've worked on it. You're pretty much your whole musical career. So did you A, feel boxed in, and B, how did you work through the idea of continuing on with the with the recorded material that you did have?
I'm not sure what you mean by boxed in.
What I mean is that you spent so much time yourself as a member of Static-X. Did you feel like you had to continue as Static-X versus starting Campos, the new band? You see what I mean?
No, like that didn't even cross my mind. Especially immediately after Wayne passed. At that time, I had already, transitioned into being a hired musician, playing with other bands, and doing Static-X. Even before Wayne passed, doing Static-X was the last thing on my mind.
Okay.
So this whole thing really just came about. 2016, I was home from tour a lot. Had a lot of downtime, and so I revisited these demos that I got from a producer friend of ours that he got from Wayne shortly before his passing, and I gave him a deep dive and saw the potential, and I was like, hey, let me hit up Kenny and Koichi and see if they want to help me finish up these songs, and that's just how it started. It wasn't even about, hey, let's get the band back together. It was just about, hey, let's finish these songs.
So then it was more or less in true tribute to Wayne. It wasn't. It really didn't have. You really didn't look past just doing the record. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was just the let's finish up these songs. And as we got closer to the 20th anniversary of Wisconsin Death Trip, it just seemed like, if we were ever going to do anything, that would be the time to do it. And, that would be the time to go out and do like a memorial for
Sure.
Wayne. Cause I felt like he never got the send off he deserved.
Fair.
And so, that once we actually got together and started working on this stuff, that's when I started thinking about it, and the anniversary looming. That's when, I started thinking that it would be a good time to do that.
Sure.
And, that snowballed into a tour, and then the tour snowballed into multiple tours going overseas and a second U.S. leg, and the whole thing just kind of snowballed,
In a good way, definitely.
Yeah.
Nice. Well. Let me ask you, Tony. And this is the uncomfortable question, I guess, but I interviewed Trip Eisen year and a half ago, whatever it was, and he obviously had something to say then and has still had something to say about his involvement in the project. I figure the best way to put that is, can you set that straight?
Let me stop you right there.
All right, go ahead.
And let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
Because I really don't care what that guy says.
Okay.
I really don't want to spend any time giving that guy the attention he so desperately craves. So that's all I'm going to say on that.
All right. Fair enough, man. Well, then talk a little bit about the decision to go out with the with a singer that was undefined. We'll say that way. I know people have made their guess and they're right or they're not, but talk about your decision, why you decided to leave the singer kind of anonymous.
Yeah, well, when we went out, we didn't want it to look like, the intention was, here's Static-X with the new singer. That's not what the motivation was to do it. It was to remember Wayne, remember, the anniversary of our first record, and remembering all the good times we had together. that's what the focus was. And so to make the singer, like if we had revealed who the singer was, all the focus would be on him. Right. That's not what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
Like we didn't want a Van Hagar situation, like
right.
There's Static Hagar.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm just gonna take a little trip down memory lane, Tony. I remember reading, that when you guys started out and you were Drill before Koichi joined the band, and then when you guys, eventually wound up changing the name to Static-X, the band experimented with a bunch of different sounds like post-grunge and hardcore punk. And there was, of course, a big industrial metal scene going on in L.A. at that time. You had the Cold Chambers and Spine Shank and, of course, Fear Factory. They were the biggest of them all. Was the musical direction of the band, was it ever influenced by the fact that the industrial metal scene was so prevalent in LA at the time, or was it one of those things where the band just simply, you guys simply found yourselves after experimented so much with different styles of music and it just happened to click with the industrial angle?
Yeah, it wasn't, something that we chose because other bands were doing it in the scene. I mean, by the time we got our start in the scene, Fear Factory was out. They were an international act, so they didn't really play LA. So the only other band that was really kind of doing it was Spine Shank. Cold Chamber didn't really. I wouldn't have considered them industrial. They didn't. I don't think they used any electronics in their live set. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were. I think there was one more
Orgy
called Crackworks that was cool. They were on the industrial tip. But yeah, like at the time we came out, the big bands were, Snot, System of a Down. Mm-hmm. Those bands were on the cusp of getting their record deals and moving on to international status. Most of the scene most of the bands we played with back in the early days weren't doing the industrial thing, and it wasn't like, hey, nobody's doing the industrial thing. Let's do it. Let's do that. Just one day, Wayne came into the rehearsal room with his Alesis HR-16 drum machine and plugged it in and said, hey, check this out. And then started playing a riff over and like, cool, yeah, let's rip off Ministry.
No, totally. Well, I mean, and that's the thing too about, I remember when I first heard of Static-X, it was about, 98. I'd moved to Southern California, and I remember my roommate, he had your guys' demo, and he would always say, like, you guys were his favorite band, and you guys were, huge even before Wisconsin Death Trip came out in Southern California. You guys were all over the place. And that was a quick rise. You guys, went from that right away to getting signed to Warner Brothers. And at that time, you had the whole nu metal thing was in. But to me, I always looked at Static-X as more industrial than actual nu metal. But Static-X did, get shelved into that aisle. But like I said, it was more along lines like, like I said, you guys were more of an industrial band, like a Ministry. I always compared you guys to more of them. And, did it ever bother you guys, like, to be considered a nu metal band and you got kind of like lumped into a group of those bands that were, because those are some polarizing bands, the Korns and Limp Bizkits, and they were also in a lot of ways, they were not very well respected as musicians within the metal community, community historically. Did that ever, like, bother you guys being considered, quote unquote, nu metal?
Yeah, not really. We always considered ourselves a more of an industrial band, but, given the scene that we came up in and the bands that we toured with, I can see why we got lumped into the nu metal thing, and it's okay. I don't mind the label. And yeah, I know the purists out there, still to this day, there's purists out there that turn their nose to nu metal, but, it's all metal to me, man. And,
sure.
and I'm an old school death metal, grindcore, hardcore punk kid, so like I know what the fucking extreme shit is.
Right.
And I love that stuff. I mean, you know, if you've ever listened to my side project with Dino from Fear Factory,
absolutely,
Assassino, that's the shit I grew up on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I can understand that mentality when you're young, because I used to have that mentality, you know, like when I was a thrasher kid, you know, and then Bon Jovi would come on and it'd be like, oh, fuck that shit, you know.
Sure, yeah.
but you know, if you're in your 40s and you're still thinking that way, then hey, I don't know.
Yeah, that's your problem. I hear you, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Tony, obviously Static-X, you know, you guys toured, it went very well, you know, and certainly initial reaction to Project Regeneration Volume 1 is really well, and I have no reason to think that Volume 2 won't be as well. So what is next for you guys? I mean, do you plan to continue Static-X as a band creating new material, or is this truly the send-off and then you move on to different things, or what?
I don't know, man. It's really up to the fans. If they want to see us continue doing this, I'm not opposed to it. I still want to go do other things. I'm working on another Assassino record right now. Yeah. You know, right now the goal is to finish Volume 2.
Okay.
Well, once that's done, then we'll figure it out. We got a couple more shows on the books as of right now, but seeing the way things are going, those are probably going to get canceled too. So who knows? I mean, everything is so up in the air right now. You know, it's really hard to say anything with any level of certainty. So
sure. Well, Tony, the album Project Regeneration Volume 1, it is out now. It is a great record. Anybody that likes Static-X will like this release. I'll just put it as simple as that.
Absolutely.
So why don't we do this, Tony? Why don't you pick a song from it to let the fans get a taste of, and we'll wrap it up by playing that. What would you like us to play?
How about Terminator Oscillator?
All right. Well, let's do it right now. It's Terminator Oscillator. It is Static-X, and this is Aftershocks.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the technology. Better. Stronger. Faster. Go!
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.